Bobby Joe, your story is heartbreaking, but it's so inspiring. So can you just share a glimpse as to what you endured?
So I started drinking at a very young age, 12, because I had low self-esteem. And I worked and I was hanging out with older people and drinking. The first time I drank, I was like, this is it. For the first time, I felt like comfortable inside my own skin. And of course, I felt like it made me fit in with the older people I was around, and it made me funnier. And of course, you get a drink and you're a better dancer and better looking too, right? And so I pursued that for the next 22 years. And, you know, things happened to me and I did things and I went to places that you can't even imagine that you would end up in these places. But with addiction, I tell you what, the farther down the scale you go, and it's just like it all becomes acceptable because you think, oh, well, this is just how it is. And, I look back today and that's an eternity away. And I'm so, there's a saying that talks about incomprehensible demoralization. And there were many times, Kelly, in my life that I just wanted to die.
Mm.
I had no hope. I didn't even think I should be breathing the same air as other people. I went for over a year without looking at myself in a mirror because I couldn't stand to see what was looking back at me.
Wow.
And I'm a lot older and a lot chubbier, and I like what I see in that mirror today. It's, it's, I'm not that person anymore. And I have came from that. And I mean, God is the one that watched over me during the midst of all that. I understand that today, and the one that really has guided my path to what I'm doing now.
Well, yeah, one of the things that struck me having young children was that your brother had mentioned that he and your parents were kind of largely unaware as to how deep this addiction had gotten rooted or how much alcohol you were consuming. Is there something that families can do to kind of be enlightened to that or catch on to it earlier?
Right. I think I had a family that we were all working, we were all very busy. We didn't sit down and eat dinner together or talk about what was going on in our lives. We all lived under the same roof, but we all very much had separate lives. We had the elephant in the front room, Sissy being an addict and an alcoholic, but nobody talked about it. I was in a family, if you didn't talk about it, it wasn't happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think everybody just kind of ignored it and had their own things going on. I think that, if we sat down and we had those meals together and we talked, it's much more apparent to see changes in siblings or children, because when you start losing that connection, you're disconnected, everybody's under the same roof but disconnected. It's not as apparent to really see what's going on, but you'd look for changes in behaviors, attitude, because addiction is a very dark thing and it will start twisting your way of thinking and acting. I think that if you see changes, address them right away. We need to figure out that addiction is a disease. It's not a stigmatism. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
people look at the word addict and alcoholics and they view something in their head automatically. And addiction is a disease. It's not a lack of moral fiber. And I think talking and realizing that their help is help.
Looking at your life from the things that you went through, whether it, be the addiction or abuse or even like bullied into prostitution. I mean, it's nothing short of a miracle, and you can definitely see God's hand on it all now. But maybe talk to me about when your relationship with the Lord began and how your life was so transformed.
After I had got sober, I was dating a guy and he kept relapsing and I'd kick him out. And so he started going to this church and I didn't want to lose, this sounds awful, but he was a crack addict. And boy, I wasn't going to lose my crackhead to a church girl, right? So I started going to church, and I believe the Lord started planting seeds. And my mom died on December 30th. And December 31st, I had a little house. All my roommates had relapsed, and I was home alone on New Year's Eve. I just picked up the urn for my mother, and I came home that night, and I was crying. My boyfriend was gone. My roommates were gone. My dad had died 3.5 years earlier, and my mom had just passed. And even though I was sober, this huge hole came back into me. It was like, oh my, what am I going to do? And I cried out to God. It was December 31st of 1998. And I cried out to the Lord. I said, Lord, please don't let me go back to where I came from. And just please lead and direct and just grab a hold of me, God. And I fell asleep praying and crying that night. And I got to tell you, fear had covered my whole life. Fear of being inadequate, not smart enough, not attractive enough, just all those worldly fears. And when I woke up January 1st of 1999, the Holy Spirit had taken up residence in me. And for the first time in my life, I knew everything was going to be okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
it's
that's
amazing.
it. He got busy.
He did get busy. Well,
He
and
did.
I love that, as we're seeing your journey unfold on screen too, that you immediately wanted to help others. You had this heart to want to help others. And it started so simple. It started with just hygiene products and baked goods. You didn't start with this vision of transforming all of Kansas
Oh,
City.
no.
So, talk to me about kind of that nudging within you and how the Lord continues to shape your life as how you're helping others.
So with the hygiene products, when I was in that detox, you couldn't even get cleaned up. And so I immediately thought, wow, I need to do something for those folks. So I'd take the little tubes of toothpaste and and initially I did it because it made me feel good about myself. And then somehow it just became the next right thing to do. And I had always felt worthwhile my whole life, that I wasn't worth anything. I just didn't feel like I had much purpose in my life. And those little bars of soap and those little tubes of toothpaste gave me a passion. And I started thinking, man, maybe there is something I'm good at. Maybe there is a purpose for my life. And it just grew from there. And I would share my story with other ladies that were going through the same thing as me and other people. And I could see that they were hearing it, not only with their ears, but they were hearing it in their heart, and that it was making an impact on them. And then I came to find out, and I was going to hospitals and detoxes and treatment centers, and I figured out there were 900 women going through inpatient treatment in Kansas City every year with only 30 safe beds to go to. So that's when God said, okay, sister, you got to do something to help. And that's how it all started. I bought an old nursing home in the hood. Of course, a lot of that is in the movie.
Yeah.
And now we have 14 homes and I think 40 apartments right now for the families. There's 200 people that live with Healing House every day and 34 children right now.
That's incredible. I mean, what a testament to you. I applaud you for doing that. And the idea of giving others the sense of community. You talk about that being a really big and integral part. Why is a sense of community, a sense of belonging so important? I mean, it is for us at any stage of our life, let alone when you're overcoming something huge.
Right. What has been created here is a family that I really didn't have. A family that sits down and eats dinner and communicates, a family that we do meetings, we do family game nights. I mean, when you're in addiction, you feel like a lost soul, right? And so you come into this place and everybody's got your best interest at heart. Everybody's encouraging, everybody's helping you. And it's like these big loving arms just circumferencing you when you get in the door. And I think we all need connection. And I think it's so important for everybody to feel a sense of belonging. And that's what's been created here. Everybody calls me mom. I tell people I have this huge dysfunctional family, but the cool thing about my family is we're all trying to get better together.
I love that. And, I love the details. So I had read that you purchased your first nursing home, which was actually became Healing House in 2001. So
Yeah.
how beautiful that 20 years later,
Yes.
2021, we're able to have this documentary that showcases your journey and can provide hope and healing for more outside of just your region. So how does it make you feel to know that this will definitely impact and change so many more lives?
You know what? That's the most important thing to me is that people know there's hope. Um, a lot of us think, oh, if we have somebody that has an addiction, we have to take them to a $50,000 treatment center. There's hope out there for everyone, and all they have to be is open-minded and willing. I am so excited to spread this message of hope and love and inspiration. I think this is going to change lives, and I pray that some people will be inspired to maybe do this in their community. I have to tell you, our whole community has been transformed. We just got a strip mall. We're redoing the whole thing, putting in businesses, getting our people jobs and job training. It's amazing. I couldn't have dreamed this life up for real.
Well, and I can't help but think, aside from the timing, the thought that it's perfectly placed in that the whole country has just experienced this world pandemic. We're in quarantine. We're forced to maybe reflect a little bit more, slow down a little bit more. Realize, are we walking into our purpose? What is that? Many may find themselves unemployed or just lost a loved one. So life looks different and everyone wants some kind of hope or renewance. So kind of like, what would you share with them for like such a time as this?
Right. I think that we've all got 2020's been a crazy year. Many of us experience loss of loved ones throughout this year. And a friend of mine, Pastor Adam, says the worst thing is not the last thing. And so, and it's easy to sit at home and think, woe is me and poor me. And I want everybody to know there's more for us, and that your past is not to define you. You don't need to stay crippled in your pain or anything you might be walking through. I tell you what, you're going to watch this movie, and if you're grumbling about your newspaper not being in your yard, you're going to say, I need to stop that. I mean, everybody's going to think, wait a minute, is my life really that difficult? If that lady can do that, there's more for me to do. And so I hope it just sparks a fire in everybody that watches it.
I'm curious though, I know that before the movie was made, you regularly shared your story and you have a book, but did you ever have a hesitation with sharing it? Did you ever just want to say that chapter's done? I don't really want anyone else to know about it, rather than taking what you did and helping so many more by being honest about your journey?
No reservation at all, because the person that I am today is not that person. There's no shame in my game, for real. When I wrote the book, my brothers called me. I have two older brothers, and both of them called and said, sis, I think this might look bad in the family. And I'm like, you know what? I came from a family of secret keepers, right? My mom told her friends that I had the flu for 20 years, right? Oh, poor Sissy sick again, or poor Sissy wrecked her car. No, they called me Sissy. Sissy was drunk and crashed into a telephone pole. But you know what? We don't want anybody to know what's going on behind closed doors. And something that was very important to me, because I come from a family of secrets, is that I tell the truth. Because I can't help people if I don't tell the truth. And, the movie's only so long, so I couldn't even share all the multitude of things. But the reality of it is, there's a thing in AA that says or the 12 steps, we're only as sick as our secrets. And I'm not going to be a secret keeper anymore. And if my stumbling or my falling can help somebody else to get the courage to know they can get back up, so be it. Don't care. I'm an open book, and I love that. And I think any of us that can share something that could encourage other people, we need to use that.